Hi, this is Dr. Perry Carpenter. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to join me on this week's video. On this week's video, we're in session number 2 of our special bulletin regarding the new medical legal fee schedule. And as we speak, we're anxiously approaching the implementation date of the new medical legal fee schedule. And if you're a qualified medical evaluator, the new medical legal fee schedule is all the buzz right now. I mean, I'm getting phone calls and emails every hour, on the hour, in between, all day long from qualified medical evaluators wondering how it is that the new medical legal fee schedule is going to change their procedures that they employ as a qualified medical evaluator, considering both the face-to-face, in-person evaluation with an injured worker, and then after that, the completion of their QME report. And I want to share with you in today's session exactly some of those changes that you can consider implementing yourself as we all experience together the adoption of the new medical legal fee schedule. And just to bring you up to speed, if this is your first session with me on this program, in our last session, which I encourage you to go back and review, we talked about the projected effective date of April 1st, 2021 for the implementation of the new medical legal fee schedule. Now today we have some new information that April 1st, 2021 may not actually be the effective date of the new medical legal fee schedule. It may come mid-month. It may take an extra month. In other words, as of the time of this recording, the actual implementation date is not yet known. We talked also about the history and the philosophy of the new medical legal fee schedule, and we talked about why it is that a new medical legal fee schedule is demanded by the parties and the stakeholders in the system. Actually, we've come to a point in time due to sustained and consecutive abuses on both sides of the old medical legal fee schedule. Those abuses have brought the system to a point in time where it can no longer tolerate what's referred to as the gaming of the system by the parties, and thus the natural evolution of the QME process demands a new medical legal fee schedule, and that's where we are at this point in time. And in our last session, we talked a little bit about comparing the old medical legal fee schedule with the new medical legal fee schedule, and we compared and contrasted the incentives that the old medical legal fee schedule had, number one, for the QMEs, and number two, for the payers of our bills. And sometimes those incentives are in alignment. Sometimes those incentives are very widely diverging incentives. And then we compared those incentives with the new incentives, or the incentives built in with regards to the new medical legal fee schedule, considering both the incentives of the QMEs and the incentives of the payers. And I want to continue in today's discussion on that same idea and consider again the incentives that the qualified medical evaluators are going to have and that they're going to attempt to exploit with the new medical legal fee schedule. And I want to compare and contrast the QME's incentives with the payers' incentives, and I want to share with you my prediction, my postulation as to how the payers are going to attempt to employ, expand, and exploit the new incentives that they have, that they are hoping to enjoy with the new medical legal fee schedule. And I think along the way, throughout the course of this discussion, if you're a qualified medical evaluator, you are going to learn how the built-in incentives that you have as a qualified medical evaluator are going to require that you change your procedures. And further, if you consider the incentives of the payers are also going to cause you to change some of your operating procedures. And the same argument can be made for the payers if you're a payer watching this particular discussion. Similarly, if you're an applicant attorney or a defense attorney that works with qualified medical evaluators, you have to understand that the qualified medical evaluators are undergoing an upheaval of their system. And therefore, the qualified medical evaluators are going to be throwing you some new pitches, some new curveballs that you haven't seen before. And those new pitches can be traced back to the new medical legal fee schedule and the changes that are required, the changes that are being imposed upon them. So you yourself as an applicant attorney and a defense attorney are going to have new incentives, new expectations when it comes to working with qualified medical evaluators in the resolution of your claims and your cases. So with that as our introduction, let's begin today's discussion as we explore the incentives built into each of the specific codes, the ML codes, under the new medical legal fee schedule. Now, before we get into the actual ML codes, I want to just touch upon a concept that we introduced in our last discussion, and it has to do with the concept of incentives. And in particular, as regards to the new medical legal fee schedule, both the QMEs have built-in incentives in using the medical legal fee schedule. The QMEs intend to use the new medical legal fee schedule to their own advantage, and that's natural and that's normal. Now, similarly, the payers who are also going to be working with the new medical legal fee schedule, they have their own built-in incentives, and they are going to attempt to exploit and expand those incentives, and that's normal and natural. So I just want to expand, and I want to discuss the concept of incentives a little bit more, and I want to help you to start thinking in terms of what is the incentive built in, not only in the new medical legal fee schedule, but also in every aspect of life, because incentives are involved in almost every human interaction and especially every human transaction. And according to the book Freakonomics, which we discussed last time, if you can understand the incentive that's operative in any given situation, any circumstance, any transaction, in any exchange with a vendor, business person, or even any other person, and even nature works along the line of its own incentive. If you can understand the built-in operative incentive, it gives you tremendous insight as to how the sequences of events are going to unfold. And so in the book Freakonomics, there was an important quote there that refers directly to and relates directly to the new medical legal fee schedule. They tell us in the book that whatever the incentive, we can consider the incentive to be the new medical legal fee schedule. Dishonest people will try to gain an advantage by whatever means necessary. Now, in this particular concept, I want to cross out the word dishonest because I don't consider the qualified medical evaluators to be dishonest people. I don't consider the claims payers to be dishonest people. I don't consider applicant and defense attorneys to be dishonest people. They're simply people that are operating along the lines of their own incentive in an effort to try and use the incentive to gain an advantage. And as I've seen, and as you've probably seen, each of the parties are going to employ whatever means necessary within the incentive program to try and gain an advantage, and that's normal and that's natural. What's important for us as qualified medical evaluators or payers or attorneys is to understand what is your own incentive, first of all, and then number two, what is the incentive of the other party with whom you are dealing. And they continue and they tell us for every clever person who goes to the trouble of creating an incentive scheme, and as relates to the new medical fee schedule, we might consider this to represent the DWC. The DWC has gone to the trouble of creating the new medical legal fee schedule, the new incentive scheme. For every group, such as the DWC, there's an army of people, clever and otherwise, who will inevitably spend even more time to beat it. And isn't it true that we have an army of QMEs working right now trying to figure out how to employ the new incentive scheme to their own advantage? We have claims payers troubleshooting and masterminding how to exploit the new medical legal fee schedule to their advantage, and that's normal and natural. And I want to give you an example of a incentive scheme that went wrong because one or more of the parties involved in the incentive scheme didn't consider the full impact of the incentive scheme on the other party. I'm remembering back to a time some years ago when I had a child in daycare, and the daycare had a rule that absolute latest pickup time was 6 p.m. Well, at the time, I was a full-time practicing chiropractic clinician, and my office was open until 6 p.m. And many times, extended patient visits would require us to remain open till 6:10, 6:15, sometimes 6:30. It depended on the circumstance or the situation of the day. And I remember that the daycare center created an incentive scheme to get late parents such as myself to pick up their kids on time. And what they did is they created a penalty. They created a $3 penalty for every late pickup. Now, my son was in daycare 5 days a week. And so late pickup every night could be a $15 per week penalty, $60 penalty per month. And the daycare center considered that this incentive, or in this case it could be a disincentive, to pick up my child by the closing time would be sufficient to get me there by 5:59 at the latest for a 6 p.m. pickup. Well, as fate would have it, the daycare center failed to consider what is the incentive of the other party, in this case, me. Imagine me in my chiropractic office rendering medical services to needy patients approaching the 6 o'clock hour, when in comes another patient, a high-paying patient, perhaps a car accident case at $100 a visit, or some other high-paying case, and it's 5:50 p.m., and I do this internal juggle in my mind: stay with my high-paying patient or pay a $3 late fee to the daycare center, and it's a no-brainer. And the incentive system for the daycare center did not work for them because they failed to consider what is the built-in incentive of the other party. So the purpose of today's discussion is to review the medical legal codes, the new ML codes, and dissect out the built-in incentives for the qualified medical evaluators and compare and contrast those with the built-in incentives of the claims payers. Okay, so let's talk about the built-in incentives of both the QMEs and the payers and compare and contrast the old medical legal fee schedule with the new medical legal fee schedule. So under the old medical legal fee schedule, we had various ML codes ranging from code ML 100 to ML code 106. Now, some of these codes have their own unique and distinct incentives, and other codes have differing unique incentives. So let's just discuss these briefly before we get into the new medical legal fee schedule. So under the old medical legal fee schedule, we had the ML 100, which was the missed appointment code billing code. Now this was an unreimbursed ML code. In other words, there was no fee associated with a missed appointment. So if there is no fee associated with the missed appointment, what is the incentive of the qualified medical evaluator? The incentive is to get the examinee to the appointment, correct? If there's no reimbursement for a missed appointment, duh, what's the incentive? The incentive is to get the employee to the appointment. So qualified medical evaluators, their staff, their offices, their support crew went out of their way 99 times to confirm the interpreter, to confirm the satellite office location, to confirm the examinee, that the examinee and all parties were going to attend the appointment because of the built incentive of a $0 reimbursement for a missed appointment. Now this is going to change under the new fee schedule, and we'll talk about that in a minute. The next billing code was the ML 102, which was the basic medical legal evaluation code. Now this was a flat fee reimbursement for the ML 102 basic evaluation, unrelated to time spent in the course of the evaluation and in the completion of the report. And knowing that this involves a flat rate fee unrelated to time, what is the built-in incentive of the qualified medical evaluator? The incentive is to get this evaluation done quickly, thereby maximizing the qualified medical evaluator's hourly rate, correct? And many qualified medical evaluators specialize in the ML102 evaluation, and some can drive their hourly rate extremely high by performing the evaluation quick. And the law, CCR 49.9, supports a quick evaluation by requiring only 30 minutes of face-to-face time for an uncomplicated evaluation. So the closer to 30 minutes that the entire evaluation can be completed, the higher is the qualified medical evaluator's effective hourly rate. So this particular ML code incentivizes the qualified medical evaluator for speed and efficiency. Now the next ML code was the ML103, the complex medical legal evaluation. This also involved a flat rate fee reimbursement of $937.50, but this particular code is based upon a time-hour investment. It requires a 4-hour time-hour investment. Well, if you do the math, $937.50 divided by 4 hours, that's less than $250 per hour, much less than can be accomplished with an ML102 per hourly rate, and even less than the hourly rate provided for by the time-based billing codes that we'll talk about in just a moment. So while the ML103 provides for a higher level of reimbursement than the ML102, it requires more hours invested, a fixed minimum hours of investment, which only serves to drive the qualified medical evaluator's hourly rate down. So qualified medical evaluators are disincentivized or poorly incentivized to use the ML103 billing code because it drives down their hourly rate. Finally, we have the time-based billing codes, the ML101, the ML104, the ML105, and the ML106, which are time-based billing codes. Now, of these codes, only the ML104 is based on complexity or has any association with a complexity. The ML101, the ML105, and the ML106 are simply time-based billing codes independent of complexity. So with the time-based billing codes, let's consider the incentive of the ML104. The incentive for the QME for the ML104 is to maximize complexity or establish complexity, establish the complexity factors. And number two, to maximize time. Maximize time. For the ML101, the ML105, the ML106, again, the incentive of the qualified medical evaluator is to maximize the time. So considering the QME's incentives with each one of these medical legal billing codes under the old medical legal fee schedule, can you imagine how the incentives of the payers would differ with regards to each of these evaluations? The incentive of the payers would be to minimize the complexity of the evaluation, to minimize the time involved with the evaluation. In other words, with regards to these particular medical legal billing codes, the incentives of the qualified medical evaluators and the incentives of the payers are diametrically opposed. And that's what's brought us to the brink of a new medical legal fee schedule, which is essentially a compromise between the varying incentives of the parties. Similarly, with the ML102, with the qualified medical evaluator's incentive to complete the evaluation quickly, this has resulted in medical legal reports, QME reports, that are what are referred to as poor quality reports. Because qualified medical evaluators are incentivized to complete these reports so quickly to maximize their hourly rate, This has resulted in a population and a pool of QME reports that are poor quality, that don't resolve the disputed issues, that simply lead to an never-ending stream of follow-up medical legal evaluations for supplemental reports or follow-up face-to-face evaluations under these two codes here. So the claims payers are incentivized to minimize these follow-up evaluations and to maximize the quality of the report of the first time through, which is opposite the incentive of the qualified medical evaluator. So this fight is what went on at the Medical Legal Fee Schedule Committee meetings, and I was there. And I witnessed the angst of both parties trying to make sense to the other party and explain to the other parties why their particular incentives should be honored in the development of the new medical legal fee schedule. So the new medical legal fee schedule attempts to compromise between the two incentives, but in my opinion it does poorly, and let me share with you some of its major shortcomings. Okay, so for example, if we consider the new ML code, codes, the first one to consider is the ML200 code, and this is the parallel code to what we currently have as the ML100 code, which is used to bill for a missed appointment. Now, under the new medical legal fee schedule, a missed appointment is a reimbursable offense. And I'm going to read to you from this code here exactly as it's written. It says, this includes instances where the injured worker does not show up for the appointment, instances where the interpreter does not show up for the evaluation, which makes it impossible to go forward with the exam. It covers instances where the injured worker leaves the evaluation before the completion of the evaluation. I haven't really had that happen before. It includes situations where the injured worker is more than 30 minutes late for the appointment and the QME is unable to continue with the scheduled QME appointment, or in the case where the appointment has been canceled within 6 business days of the scheduled appointment date, and that happens all the time. So some of these situations occur more often than the others, and this is going to be a reimbursable billing code to compensate the qualified medical evaluator for the opportunity loss due to having a missed appointment. So as you think about this code, what are some of the built-in incentives for the qualified medical evaluator? Well, for the qualified medical evaluator, if we get reimbursed $503 for a missed appointment, how compelled are you going to be to confirm the examinee's attendance at the appointment? How compelled will you be to confirm the interpreter to attend the appointment? How compelled will you be to continue with the evaluation that's scheduled for 9 a.m. when at 9:30 a.m., 30 minutes later, the examinee just finishes completing his or her paperwork that you sent to them in the mail 4 weeks prior that they were supposed to fill out prior to coming to the appointment? How compelled will you be to move forward with that evaluation knowing that you're already 30 minutes behind schedule when, according to this code, you can bill for a missed appointment code and be reimbursed $503.75. In other words, now with the new ML200 code, a missed appointment is not such a terrible, devastating loss to the bottom line. Well, continuing with the code, let's talk about how the Division of Workers' Compensation has anticipated the incentives of the parties and particularly of the QMEs and has attempted to eliminate the potential gaming that qualified medical evaluators are inevitably going to engage in manipulating this code to their own advantage. Well, the code goes on to say, if the physician produces a record review report within 30 days of the date of the missed appointment, the physician shall be reimbursed at the rate of $3 per page for any records reviewed in excess of 200 pages. So you get reimbursed for pages in excess of 200 pages. So when you have a missed appointment plus 200 pages of record review, you get $503.75 plus $0 additional for the 200 pages of record review. Plus later on, when the examinee shows for the appointment, you're going to get the standard fee of $2,015, which we'll talk about in just a minute. So there's no additional reimbursement for 200 pages of medical records. So if there's no reimbursement for 200 pages or less of record review, is the qualified medical evaluator going to take the time to sit down and review 200 pages of record review and to create a review of records in Microsoft Word and submit it to the parties for $0 reimbursement? Okay, think of the incentive of the qualified medical evaluator. Now, the code goes on and it says that for billing in excess of 200 pages, the qualified medical evaluator can bill. So imagine a scenario where you have a missed appointment plus 300 pages of record review. The qualified medical evaluator is now going to get $503.75 for the missed appointment, $300 for review of records, that's $803.75, plus later when the examinee comes in, later the basic evaluation fee will apply at $2,015. So this is a case value for this particular scenario of a missed appointment and 300 pages of medical records of approximately $28.18. Now, finally, the last section of this code really starts to shape the incentive of the qualified medical evaluator. So imagine again you have 300 pages of record review. You can bill now by doing a review of records prior to the actual face-to-face evaluation, or you can wait. But the code tells us that when billing for a record review report under this code, any pages reviewed for this record review, so this is 300 pages, these 300 pages reviewed for this record review report will be excluded from the page count for reimbursement when the face-to-face or supplemental evaluation actually takes place. So here the Division of Workers' Compensation eliminated the potential for gaming, for the potential for qualified medical evaluators to rebill or double bill for the same pages later. So knowing these particular nuances in the language of the code, what is the incentive of the qualified medical evaluator? You can either do the review of records now and be reimbursed $803.75 now and get your $2,015 later for a total case value of $28.1875, or you can do the missed appointment now and do the review of records later, again for a total case value of $28.18. But my suggestion to you, and the built-in incentive for the qualified medical evaluator, in my opinion, is to do the review of records at the time of the missed appointment and get your money now. Get your money now, because who knows what's going to happen later? Who knows what's going to happen later? Who knows if the examinee is going to show up? Who knows if the case is going to resolve or be settled later at some point in time? In my opinion, the incentive is to get paid earlier rather than later. So the built-in incentive for the qualified medical evaluator is to do the review of records at the time of the missed appointment. Okay, so that's the ML200 code. Let's talk about the next code, which is the ML201 code. Okay, so that's the ML200 code. The next code is the ML201 code, and this is the code that's going to be used in the majority of the face-to-face evaluations that you do. And this is the comprehensive medical legal evaluation, which carries with it a flat rate reimbursement of $2,015. Now, for qualified medical evaluators who used to be specialists in the ML102, the basic quick medical legal evaluation, this particular evaluation is going to represent a significant pay raise for you. But in providing a pay raise for you, the payers have a new expectation, and that's going to carry with it new incentives for the payers. So let's talk about this particular code. And I'll be reading from the code word for word. So this code includes review of up to 200 pages of medical records. Pages in excess of 200 pages can be billed extra. So the incentive of the payer is to limit the number of pages sent to the qualified medical evaluator to 200 pages or less. And the claims payers will be sending, along with the pages of medical records, they'll be sending an attestation or a statement as to the number of pages that they're requesting that you review. And I can guarantee you that a large percentage of them will be limited to 200 pages or less, because that's the built-in incentive of the payers. And you might think that $3 per page is not much of an incentive for the payers, but when you consider the numbers of qualified medical evaluations taking place and the number of potential pages that could be billed industry-wide, the cost savings to the payers is tremendous. And I can tell you that they're conducting meetings and mastermind sessions right now as we speak, trying to come up with plans as to how to limit the number of pages sent to qualified medical evaluators. Well, what are the expectations and the incentives of the qualified medical evaluators? The expectations and the incentives of the qualified medical evaluators is that they're going to be able to continue to write and author the same poor quality reports that they previously did under the ML102, the basic, the quick medical legal evaluation, but get paid 3 times as much at $2,015. But the expectations of the payers in exchange for this pay raise, and I was there at these discussions to hear how this unfolded, the payers have an expectation that for this higher fee, 3 times the fee of the prior ML102 report, they're going to get 3 times the quality of report and eliminate 3 times the number of supplemental reports that are required, and eliminate up to 3 times the follow-up face-to-face re-evaluations that are required. So here the incentive of the QME is to produce the final product report fast in order to maximize the hourly rate under the flat rate fee schedule of $2,015. The incentive of the payers, or the expectation of the payer, is that they're going to get a good, high-quality report that actually resolves the issue. So to succeed under this new code and to avoid having to write supplemental reports that are not reimbursed, the qualified medical evaluator has to be both fast and good. The incentive is to improve the content and quality of your report such that your reports qualify as substantial medical evidence and can be used to resolve disputed issues the first time through. If you can accomplish this, you can get paid up to 3 times the former rate of pay for similar work by simply redistributing your work to focus on the opinions and conclusions and qualifying your opinions and conclusions as substantial medical evidence. Okay? So that's the basic or the comprehensive medical legal evaluation code. Let's talk about the follow-up medical legal evaluation code. Now, the follow-up medical legal evaluation code is going to be built under new code ML102. The ML102 is going to be paid a flat rate fee reimbursement of $1,316.25. And this basically considers about 4 hours of time involved in a follow-up medical legal evaluation. Now, this This code, again, like the other codes, involves up to 200 pages of review of medical records that were not previously reviewed for the prior evaluation. And this evaluation can be scheduled up to 18 months following the initial evaluation before the follow-up evaluation would revert back to the flat rate fee of $2015. So if $2015. So if the claims payer can get this thing scheduled in less than 18 months after the initial evaluation, you can see that the claims payer would save about $700. So the incentive of the claims payer is to not let this follow-up evaluation go beyond 18 months. And you can bet that they will be contacting you somewhere around the 16th, 15th, or 16th month to get this follow-up evaluation scheduled. Now, this code, in my opinion, really favors the claims payers because it includes up to 200 pages of medical records that were not previously reviewed for the initial evaluation. So who do you think it is that's going to determine what 200 pages were reviewed for the initial evaluation? And what if the initial evaluation involved 300 pages of medical records and the subsequent follow-up medical legal evaluation comes to you with 400 pages of medical records? Whose job do you think it's going to be to filter through those medical records to determine which of these records you reviewed previously that need to be filtered out of this pile, out of this stack, this disorganized random stack, to determine which of the medical records are new medical records for the follow-up evaluation? This is going to fall upon the qualified medical evaluator and their staff, and I can tell you that this in itself is going to be a tremendous profitability drain right here in determining this particular page count. And this is a provision of the new medical legal code, ML202, that favors the claims payer. Again, pages in excess of 200 pages will be billed at $3 per page. So you can bet that the claims payer is going to strive and is going to be organized and is going to try to orchestrate medical legal evaluations that involve less than 200 pages of medical records in order to limit the cost of the evaluation to no more than $13.16.25. So in my opinion, this particular code, the follow-up medical legal evaluation, is going to be a problem for qualified medical evaluators because of its flat and fixed flat rate fee reimbursement. Now, if you're knowing that the flat rate reimbursement is $1,316, what is the incentive of the qualified medical evaluator? The incentive for you as a qualified medical evaluator is to get it done fast to maximize your hourly rate. And I should tell you that the new medical legal fee schedule assumes and predicates an hourly rate for qualified medical evaluators of approximately $325 per hour. And that is memorialized in one of the codes I want to share with you in just a minute related to sub rosa videotaping. Provides for $325 per hour. So at that hourly rate, you can see here that you're probably going to need to get that evaluation done in 4 hours or less in order to meet the hourly rate provision for you under the new medical legal fee schedule. So the incentive for the qualified medical evaluator is to filter out the previously reviewed records in a minute, instantaneously. Keep accurate records of what you did before so that you can compare that to what you're required to do now and get her done as fast as possible. This might be a task that you can delegate to a staff member who can complete the task for you quickly and efficiently and inexpensively, and simply provide you with the new medical records that you're required to evaluate for the new evaluation. And the opposite incentive exists for the payers, for the claims payers, under this particular code. And think like a claims payer who's ordering a follow-up medical legal evaluation from you. they're going to be incentivized to send the QME a huge pile of medical records, disorganized, out-of-date order, mishmash stack of records, and let the QME himself, on his own dime and on his own time, figure out which of these were new medical records and which of these were old medical records for which there is no reimbursement. And you can expect, simply because the claims payer has no incentive, they have no incentive to organize the records for you and pull the medical records out from the stack that are old records that you previously reviewed. No, that's not going to happen. And as a qualified medical evaluator, you can expect that to not happen. So when you have a follow-up medical legal evaluation, every step of the process has to be done quick, such that the entire evaluation is completed in about 4 hours or even less, in order to maximize the qualified medical evaluator's hourly rate. Okay, so that's the ML 102. Let's go on now to a big topic of controversy for all parties, and that has to do with the supplemental medical legal report. And that brings us to the most controversial of the new codes, and that has to do with the ML 203, which is the fees for the supplemental medical legal reports. Now, whereas before, under the old fee schedule, the supplemental report was a time-based billing code under the ML 106. Time-based billing code with no complexity required, no other requirement except for the absolute amount of time that the doctor spent on the report, was reimbursed at $250 per hour. So qualified medical evaluators were incentivized, strongly incentivized to build their practice around the supplemental report because it was a time-based billing code, basically above all scrutiny of complexity. So it was a cash cow for many qualified medical evaluators for the longest time, and the payers were aware of this. I sat at the Medical Legal Fee Schedule Committee meetings and heard the lamentations of the payers talking about having to pay for supplemental reports over and over again, simply to try and get the qualified medical evaluator to provide opinions and conclusions that can be used in the resolution of the disputed issues. Now this includes up to 50 pages of medical records, whether those medical records were previously reviewed or not. So there will be no onus upon the qualified medical evaluator to filter through the medical records and determine which records are new and which records are old. And pages in excess of 50 pages can be billed at $3 per page. So this so far looks good for the qualified medical evaluator. It has built in it about 2 hours of time involved in creating the supplemental report. So qualified medical evaluators will be incentivized to produce the entire supplemental report in 2 hours or less. However, on the side of the claims payers, and I sat as we argued through this particular language in the code, the claims payers, because they're providing for a pay increase under the Comprehensive Medical Legal Evaluation Code ML 201 at $2,015, they consider that to be a pay raise. So for that pay raise, the claims payers don't want to have to pay for supplemental reports to get the qualified medical evaluator to review information that the qualified medical evaluator already had available in his office or in his file. They don't want to pay for getting the qualified medical evaluator to address issues that were previously requested in the cover letters. Remember, CCR 35.5C1 requires that the qualified medical evaluator address each question posed in each cover letter or in all cover letters that the qualified medical evaluator received. Now, if you're not familiar with doing this, you will soon learn that that the parties can ask as many as 10, 15, 20 questions in each of the cover letters that they send to you. So combining all the questions from all the parties can create quite a ponderous task for you as the qualified medical evaluator to address all of those issues. And guess what? If you fail to address an issue that was sent to you in a cover letter, the claims payer is simply going to write you another letter requesting a supplemental report, and they're going to ask you to please refer to question such and such in their prior cover letter dated April 1st, 2021. And here is where the incentive of the claims payer is going to be quite visible and immediately felt by you as the qualified medical evaluator. What you can expect is that the claims payers are going to expand their initial cover letters to you to include copious quantities of difficult and detailed questions on their initial cover letters to you. And they're going to expect that you address each and every one of those questions in those initial cover letters, because if you fail to address those questions and they have to come back to you and request a supplemental medical legal evaluation, well, guess what? It's going to be unreimbursed. It's not going to be reimbursed. So here's where there's going to be a great war between the claims payers and the qualified medical evaluators. And in this particular code, the claims payers win. This code favors the claims payers because it's the claims payer that's going to have the power to fail to reimburse you as the qualified medical evaluator, while you as the qualified medical evaluator fight and argue with them that this particular evaluation should be a reimbursable evaluation. And I want to read directly from the code to you. It says, fees will not be allowed under this section for supplemental reports. Number one, following the physician's review of information which was available in the physician's office for review or was included in the medical record provided to the physician prior to preparing the comprehensive medical legal report or a follow-up medical legal evaluation. So if the information was previously provided, was made available prior, and you don't comment on it and the parties have a question about it, you're going to be writing a supplemental report for $0 reimbursement. So in this regard, the payers are expecting a better product. They're expecting a better review, a better summary of information that they take the time, effort, and energy and the trouble to send to you in the first place. They're not going to allow QMEs to be vague and to defer issues and to be subtle and coy and create copious omissions in the report, for which under the old fee schedule would spark the need for a supplemental report. No, those days are over here, and you won't get paid for that. Similarly, the claims payers are requesting a better product here by demanding that first time through you address issues that they request of you, because if you fail to do that, you're going to be writing supplemental reports for $0 reimbursement. So here the claims payers have us. They're agreeing to higher fees for us, or what they consider to be higher fees, but in exchange for those higher fees, they want a better product. So the incentive for the qualified medical evaluator is to get better at resolving the disputed issues, better at answering the questions addressed in the cover letters, and better at it by doing it quickly. Okay, so before we go on to the last two codes, let's finish up with the ML203 code, the supplemental medical legal report, which has a flat rate fee of $650. So for the QMEs, you can expect that your supplemental report should take no more than 2 hours, should be less than 2 hours, in order to maximize the reimbursement, hourly rate reimbursement for that report. So this is a report that the qualified medical evaluator is incentivized to complete quickly. Now, in order to get reimbursed under this particular code, there are some requirements for you as the QME, and that is you have to be able to demonstrate that every request is a novel request, is a new request, is a unique request above and beyond the issues that you previously discussed in either your comprehensive medical legal evaluation or in your follow-up medical legal evaluation. If you're unable to demonstrate that every request is a novel request, in other words, every request is a repeat request, then there will be no payment for that evaluation. So this is going to be your skill as a qualified medical evaluator, number one, to address those issues first and foremost in the initial evaluation, whether that be the comprehensive evaluation or the follow-up evaluation, to address every issue with substantial medical evidence that's requested by the parties. Now the payers, what they're expecting, and I know this because I sat with them over the course of 16 hours during the medical legal fee schedule committee meetings, the payers are expecting to get a lot, at least initially, they're expecting to get a lot of free reports which were previously billed for under either the comprehensive medical legal evaluation or the follow-up medical legal evaluation. In other words, they're going to get free reports because they're not going to pay for reports simply to answer questions or clarify issues that you failed to do the first time through. And so the claims payer is going to claim that every issue that needs clarification in the form of a supplemental report is an issue that was previously discussed or previously requested in their cover letters. So you can expect that claims administrators are going to dramatically and greatly expand their cover letters. I mean, what would you do if you were the claims payer? What would you do? You would load those cover letters up with specific and exacting and voluminous questions. Every single question that it takes to resolve the case and to keep the case moving forward. One of the problems with the system that brings us to the brink of a new medical legal fee schedule is the tremendous delays and tremendous costs that are introduced into the system as a result of what are referred to as poor quality QME reports. Well, the purpose of this language of the new medical legal fee schedule is to improve the content and quality of QME reports such that delays are eliminated, such that costs are reduced. So the participation in this of the claims payer is to do their part, do you get it? To do their part by asking you as the qualified medical evaluator the questions that they need to resolve the claim and move the case forward. And from you, they're going to be expecting that you'll answer those questions in a way that does just that, that allows the case to continue moving forward without introducing unnecessary delay and without introducing unnecessary costs that are simply frivolous costs from the perspective of the claims payer. So what does this mean for you as the qualified medical evaluator? So what do I anticipate that this means for you as the qualified medical evaluator? What can you expect to change in your face-to-face evaluations, and what can you expect to change in your report writing procedures under the new medical legal fee schedule? Well, in understanding that and in preparing yourself for the day coming very soon when we have this new medical legal fee schedule, let's review what the built-in incentives that each of the parties have under this new system. For qualified medical evaluators, the incentive has to do with speed. Because all of the new medical legal fee codes, except for sub rosa videotaping and deposition times, are based on flat rate reimbursements. Flat rate reimbursements are going to reward the qualified medical evaluator who can get the job done fast. Now, for ML 102 writers under the current medical legal fee schedule, those qualified medical evaluators who specialize in producing ML 102 reports, this is not going to be a challenge for you because you're already accustomed to completing your reports fast. For qualified medical evaluators who languish over ML 104 reports, for whom time is not a factor, this is going to be a challenge in streamlining your procedures and your processes in order to be profitable under the new flat rate reimbursement scheme. For the payers, substantial medical evidence is the order of the day. The payers are interested in receiving from us as qualified medical evaluators what they refer to as high-quality reports that resolve the issues the first time through without introducing unnecessary delay and without introducing unnecessary costs that are not required. Now, we find ourselves here at a point in time where we have agreed upon a new medical legal fee schedule, but we have not yet agreed upon as a group what qualifies as what's referred to as a high quality report. And I know this because I'm on the report quality committee, and the work of the report quality committee is ongoing still, even at the time of this recording, whereas the fee schedule is already established. So really, if you think about it, we've decided and agreed upon what we're going to be paid for the work that we do before we've agreed what it is the work that we'll do. Well, I can tell you that the work that we do has to resolve the disputed issues, because none of us wants to be writing what's referred to as a remedial or a non-reimbursable supplemental report. So getting good at producing opinions and conclusions that qualify as substantial medical evidence and that resolve the reports is going to be required now, and it's going to be required even more so in the future when the report quality committee finally concludes their work. In the meantime, for you as a qualified medical evaluator, you have to get good at what you're doing. You have to get better at resolving disputed issues, because you're not going to have the supplemental report. You're not going to have the follow-up face-to-face evaluations that you've had under the old medical legal fee schedule. There's no incentive in the system. In fact, there are disincentives in the system for that particular practice-building approach that many qualified medical evaluators enjoyed, exploited, and employed under the old medical legal fee schedule. You now have to get good at resolving disputed issues under a smaller flat rate fee without supplemental reports, without follow-up evaluations, and you have to get fast at doing it. So the parties, they don't mind paying us a higher rate of pay, which is what they believe that they're doing now. They believe that they're giving us a pay raise under the new medical legal fee schedule, but in exchange for that, they want us to produce better quality reports that help move cases through the system quicker and less expensively. So for you as a qualified medical evaluator, doesn't that figure? You have to get better at what you're doing. You have to get faster at what you're doing. And really, that's the nature of progress in all walks of life, in all industries. It's all about better, faster, and cheaper. And I'm sure you'll agree with me that the whole trend, every industry is moving toward better products that are pumped out faster, that are pumped out cheaper. Microprocessors and computers are getting faster and cheaper all the time. Cars are getting faster and lighter and easier to produce. And that's the whole nature of progress, is to get more with less. And for you as a qualified medical evaluator, you can succeed if you can produce better quality reports in shorter periods of time, thereby maximizing your hourly rate under the new medical legal fee schedule. So doctors, I hope this helps you. In our next session, we're going to talk about some actual case examples. So by that I mean, we're now scheduling evaluations into the future which are going to cross into the new medical legal fee schedule. So we're able to get some insight as to how these cases are going to be evaluated, how they're going to be billed, and how they're going to be best handled under the new medical legal fee schedule. And I'll share some of those with you in our next session so that you can adopt those procedures into your own injured worker evaluations. So I want to thank you for taking the time to join me on today's discussion. I look forward to being with you on our future discussions as well. And for now, this is Dr. Perry Carpenter. I'm wishing you best of success in your career as a qualified medical evaluator.